Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are in the test server and I wanted to talk today about a 4-3 ratio clan boss team. So I built a team and we're going to show it off today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can make this work for you. Now, with this particular team, actually I should say last video I showed, or one of the last videos I showed, was an all rare version of this, right? People going at a 4-3 ratio, all rare champions, fighting on Nightmare and getting what I thought was a pretty good result considering the gear, considering the champions we brought in. I thought I'd take it up a step and try it a little bit different. And this time I took some of the restrictions off, right? I said, you know what, I'm just going to build this to the nines as far as the gear goes and limit myself on the champions. So no legendaries, no counterattack, no poisoners on this team. But I did use stalwart gear for everybody, and I do have them stacked out. So you can kind of take what you will from that, but you don't need legendary champions, you don't need counterattack, you don't need even poisoners to get good results on Ultra Nightmare. Now, actually, I don't even know how this is going to perform. I'm hopeful that this will get us to about a 3-key Ultra Nightmare team, somewhere between 20 and 25 million damage. I think that would be a really good result considering the champions we're using. If we can get even higher, though, that really shows, hey, there's a lot of options here as far as building your team, because you bring a counterattack champion into this team and, you know, add another, 50% damage to the result that we're going to be getting out of it. So there's definitely a lot of ways to go about building these squads and getting the results that you want out of it. We're going to go ahead and look at the champions. I'm going to take a brief moment and look into the calculator too to show you guys the different options when you're building a 4-3 ratio team as far as how you can time skills depending on the champions you're using. I'll talk a little bit about different champions you can bring in and who you can substitute out. As always, you can pretty much mix and match the champions you want to use as long as they don't, really affect turn meter or speed. So no speed buffs, no turn meter manipulation. Those get a little bit more complicated. But for a simple team like this, it's pretty easy to mix and match champions, swap them out as you will. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys that first thing, half you guys aren't subscribed. You're watching my videos, you're not subscribed. Take the time, hit that subscription button, hit that notification bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and it's the easiest and the freest way to support the work I do. So if you like the videos I do for you guys, take the time, hit that subscription so I can do more of these for you. Simple as that. On top of that, if you like the music that I played today, there is a Soundstripe link down below in the pinned comment description of this video. I do encourage you guys to check that out, especially if you do stuff like I do, where you do YouTube videos or you stream on Twitch and you need copyright-free, royalty-free music, or you just like the music. That's kind of what I do. I just listen to this on my own time. But anyway, you can use code Deadwood Jedi, save 15% on that. So I do encourage that. But all that said, let's get into the champions so I can show you how they're built, how they're set up. We'll go into the run and I'll show you the calculator at the end, kind of give you guys a little idea of, hey, these are different ways you can manipulate this to get the result you want based on the 4-3 champion you're bringing into your team. So this is the team that we're going to be bringing in here, and we're going a little bit different with stuff. Now, Geomancer obviously is the one meta champion I have on this team, but we still don't have poison, we still don't have counterattack, we're still missing a lot of stuff out of this kit, and I think it's going to work out really nicely as a result. I am bringing in Ragnar Goldgleam, who's a very weak champion. He's got very low base defense, so he's hard to keep alive in a traditional comp, but we're going to see if he can't do that for us. He brings some stuff for us that I like. Decreased defense, weaken, as well as leech, which will help keep our champions alive. We already have a lot of healing with Rearguard Sergeant, as well as Jareg. They do give us continuous heal buffs that are going to be pretty helpful for us. On top of that, we have Grizzled Jarl, who's going to give us increased defense, Jareg, who's going to give us increased defense. We have ally protection from Jareg and Rearguard Sergeant. We have decreased attack from Jareg and Grizzled Jarl. There's a lot of things in here that are going to help us keep alive, and we're doubled up on almost every single buff and debuff that we need. So we're going to have increased defense for the full fight, ally protection for the full fight. That'll help keep us alive. And then if we can keep the leech up, we should heal up enough to be able to survive a long time in this clan boss. But let me show you the champions, how they're built, because that definitely makes a big difference. So one thing you're going to notice, everybody is in stalwart gear. That's going to help us survive a lot. Once you've moved past the point of using lifesteal, stalwart is the way to go. It's massive for you. We're going to start here with Ragnar. Now, he has an abysmally low base defense of like 782. It's so small. This is why traditionally I don't bring him into more traditional clan boss teams, killable teams, because it's hard to keep him alive. Because of all the ally protection, because of the stalwart gear, I feel like we're going to have a pretty good chance, even with his low defense of 2600. Now, I could have sacrificed some attack to try and up that defense more, and maybe that's a better way to go. but I just decided to keep him damage dealing and attack heavy, and we'll see the results that we get. Now, he's got good crit rate, good crit damage, and accuracy, which you'll see across the board here. It's kind of the goal. We also have Geomancer, stalwart gear again. He's the second lowest defense, so he'll probably be the second to die right after Ragnar bites it. But we do get him almost to 3,000 defense, so that's a very viable number, especially with increased defense buff on all our allies. 178 speed, he's going to be the second fastest right after Ragnar as far as turn order goes. And he's got 100% crit rate, solid crit damage. Accuracy is on the lower side, but should be good. You might notice his HP is a little bit on the lower side because he's going to be taking the stun. Lower HP is actually beneficial because it means he'll take less damage. Then we have Rearguard Sergeant, one of our ally protection champions, going to keep everybody alive. Great HP at 70,000, good defense 3,500. The speed is going to be the second slowest, second to last in the turn order again. And that's going to be good because he'll be able to keep his buffs up majority of the time. Good accuracy, good crit rate. You'll notice I don't have crit damage on all of my ally protection champions. It's a weird thing with them. Ally protection champions, when the damage they absorb from their allies is modified by their own crit damage if their allies were hit with a crit. So keeping his crit damage low is actually beneficial. Then we're going to bring in Grizzled Jarl. Obviously a beast of a champion. He hits really hard, so I do him with good crit damage, crit rate. I do want the decreased attack to land, so that's why he has accuracy. 172 speed means he'll go last in the turn order, so when he places that block debuff, it'll stay on all of our champions, no matter who takes the stun. He also brings that increased defense buff, which is key. 4,000 defense, 46,000 HP is good, and then Jareg is the last one, who I think a beast of a build at 246 speed. He's the fast one. He's going at the 4-3 ratio. He's the guy that makes this whole comp tick, right? Makes everything work. 90,000 HP, 3,000 defense, 265 crit damage, almost 100% crit rate. Couldn't quite get there, but pretty darn close. So that's the team. Masteries, you'll see he's the only one in offense and support tree. The reason why I wanted to try and maximize his healing, make sure he lands his decreased attack. I'm not too worried about him staying alive. I think he's going to survive pretty well for us. But I could take him down the defensive tree like I did with every single other champion that I have on this team, and I think we would have gotten just a good result with that as well. So kind of keeping all that in mind, this is a team, we're going to go ahead and run it. I did turn off some of the skills here to maximize the damage potential of the squad, so I'll talk about that as we get into the run. Okay, now setting this up, this team isn't going to sync until about turn 6. At that point, we're going to have the same exact skill usage and order every single time through. We're going to start off with Jarreg's ally protection and increased defense. This means on turn 6, everything will be in sync. Up until then, it's going to be a little bit off. One of the things with Ragnar is you absolutely have to turn off his A2 skill. 1, this skill will kill him. 2, it'll throw off the timing of all of his stuff because he gets a turn meter boost from it. So we just turn that skill off, and then it becomes really good as we get decreased defense and weaken from his A3, and we get a leech from his A1. And the more damage he takes, the more it's actually going to cool down that A3 skill, so that'll be more consistent later on in the fight. Geomancer, we want to wait for the HP burn until after the first stun. That'll help keep us in sync, so we keep that up for the majority of the fight and get as much reflect damage as possible. We're going to use Rearguard Sergeant's ally protection between the AoEs to keep us alive and everybody protected. And then Grizzled Jarl, we're going to wait to use his increased defense and block debuff skill for the stun because we are going against Void. Now, if we were going against Affinity, I could have Grizzled Jarl use it a little earlier, and that'd be fine. It wouldn't be perfect for setting up, not with this kind of team. You really need a 2-turn block debuff champion, but it could work, and that would be a way I would go with it. You can also use a cleanser in this type of a team in that fast slot that Ragnar is running in. We're going to use A1 here. We're still going to wait with Geomancer. Here goes Jareg. Rearguard Sergeant. I turned off Rearguard Sergeant's A2. It's a decreased attack debuff, which is good, but I want that decreased defense debuff to stay up, so that's why I turned that off. Here he goes, and now we are blocked. You saw that with what's his name, Grizzled Jarl. He blocked the debuff, increased defense on us, took the stun, no problem. You'll also notice ally protections on Geomancer and Ragnar, so they're only taking half damage from that stun anyway. It's a great way to keep your team alive, but because we can't keep it on everybody, we do need to figure out who's taking the stun and making sure they're going faster than Rearguard Sergeant so that stays up on them for the full fight. And there you go. And that's pretty much it. At this point, we can click auto, and we're going to be in good shape. Now, Jareg's going to be using that ally protection here. This isn't the ideal spot because we're not fully in sync. It's going to take him one more turn for him to place that at the appropriate time. Right there, he took a double turn. So that's kind of where we're going to have to keep that in mind as far as like the timing of skills. But at this point, we should be in great shape. We're going to have all the skills happening at the right time. You'll see we'll have ally protection on our stun targets, Geomancer and Ragnar for the entirety of the fight. You'll see that we should have, and so we're going to take a lot less damage. We're going to have increased defense up for the entirety of the fight, so we'll take a lot less damage. One of the things you have to watch out for with a comp like this is the debuffs and if they stay up or not. Because a lot of this isn't consistent, we got to be really careful. If for some reason Leech doesn't land, for example, we might not heal up enough to survive the next hit from the clan boss. If we don't land decrease attack, if that falls off at any point, we might take so much damage that we don't survive. These are things that we have to pay attention to and watch out for. And when I'm building a team like this and I'm trying to figure out how do I make this team better or where are my weak spots, I need to watch the run itself and see, is there a point where we don't have a buff up? Is there a point where we're missing something? Like, I know I have increased defense and ally protection covering us for this entire fight, but if I don't at some point, is that a deal breaker? Is the champion that doesn't have increased defense, for example, dying before everybody else? If that's the case, that tells me a weak spot in the chain link of this team that I need to fix, because once one champion dies, the whole thing will fall apart. So these are the little things that I pay attention to. Does Ragnar have too little HP? Does Geomancer have too little HP? We saw, if somebody takes a stun at the wrong spot, how do I fix that? Where do I need to improve? Do I need more healing? Do I need something else going on? These are the things I have to pay attention to just to make sure that my team will survive. So this is kind of how I build this team. Now, without counterattack, things like the decreased defense from Rearguard Sergeant, the decreased attack from Jareg are a lot less reliable. This is why I have a champion like Rearguard Sergeant, like Grizzled Jarl, using that A3 skill to help make sure we keep decreased attack up. That's why I have a champion like Ragnar in there to make sure we have decreased defense up. If I could bring in an ally protection champion, those are things I don't have to worry about as much or at all, in all honesty. But you can see we're going to be able to keep these debuffs. We're going to be able to do hopefully some pretty solid damage throughout this fight and get to that 3 key point. And because we have all those buffs up, we're not going to take a whole lot of damage along the way, which is great. And you can see now we're in sync. Jareg's placing that increased defense and the ally protection right before the first AoE, and then Rearguard comes in for the second one to do the same thing, not to mention provide a little healing so that we can heal up both before that second AoE hits as well as before the stun lands right here. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Guys, watch the rest of the run, enjoy it, enjoy the music, and we'll come back at the end. There you go, 24.7 million. That is solid 3 key damage, right? We need about 70 million to get that 1 key on, to get the top chest. I'm sorry, we need about 70 million to get that top chest on Ultra Nightmare. This is a team that will do that for you, right? You know, we do 3 of these keys, we will get that top chest. This is what we were hoping for, honestly, out of that result. And I think we got there with it. Now, even watching this, I was able to go, are there ways that I could make this work a little better? And I think there are. One of the things I would actually like to do is maybe change up where Jareg uses his double turn. I think maybe not having him go last on that double turn could be good, because one of the things is Rearguard Sergeant kind of puts up that continuous heal on everybody else and was dying after that second AoE, just taking too much damage. I wouldn't mind Jareg being in that spot, honestly. I feel like he would be a better person to have be doing that ally protection, because he gets the healing from Rearguard, and he's also built a lot tankier than my Rearguard is currently, with like 30,000 more HP, so he can probably survive that a little bit better and recover a little bit better before the stun comes around. Rearguard died because she took the stun. So these are little things I would think about and go, maybe this is a different way I could do it, or maybe I just build my Rearguard with better gear. That's always a possibility too, but you can see we can get to these numbers that we want. Now, obviously, I was hoping for more damage. I know you were hoping for more damage. We all were hoping for more damage, but we also learned a lot, right? I know Geomancer can actually probably have a lot less defense than we have on him. Ragnar survived a lot longer than Rearguard. She's the one I have to watch out for. So, you know, maybe one of the things I do is I put Rearguard in lifesteal gear. Make sure that she really can heal up, even if she doesn't proc that Giant Slayer, the War Master Mastery, right? So we have to find ways to adjust for that. You know, and so I thought it was a pretty good result. There's definitely some things we can do to switch it up and make it work a little bit better for us. But all in all, I was very happy with how this went. I wasn't sure if we would get to this number, and we did. And that's a great, great result. Now, we're talking about 1 champion at a 4-3 ratio, and I was talking about maybe we can move Jareg to a different spot. Maybe that would help our team and our damage, keep the buffs up just as long, but in a different way. And you can do that very easily. Now, I have all my champions plugged in, so I'm just going to move them off to the side, and we're going to zoom in a little bit, so hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better. But you can see everything syncs up here on turn 6, where we get the double turn and Jareg goes last, and that's going to repeat as we go all the way through. One of the things we can do is, by manipulating the speeds of the champions, change where that happens. If we lower Jareg's speed, even just by 1, all of a sudden now he's taking that double turn between the AoEs. It's a very different timing for his skills, and we can use that to our benefit, right? We can have almost everything happen the same. If Jareg uses his increased defense here between, we'll still keep increased defense up for the full fight. We would have Jareg use his ally protection on his second attack here. We'd have Rearguard use hers on the first AoE, and as a result, while they wouldn't be protecting each other necessarily, we would protect all of our allies throughout the fight and still maintain increased defense, right? Alternative ways to go about doing this. That's the kind of thing I would do if I had a Skull Crusher, for example, as a counterattack champion to maximize his skills. We can even make his speed even slower, and you'll see he'll take his double turn right before the stun. So depending on the champion you're bringing in, depending on where you want them to use your skills, just by changing their speed by a few, we can really alter how the team performs. Even still, we can alter the speeds of the other champions to get similar results. Like Geomancer here, second fastest at 178. If we move him up just 1 speed, all of a sudden Jareg's now taking his double turn between or before the first AoE. And who's going last? Grizzled Jarl. This gives us an alternative way to do this. So if instead of Grizzled Jarl I had a Skull Crusher, I wanted a counterattack or a Valkyrie or Martyr or something, I can do a team like this. I still get the 4-3 ratio, but who's going last before those AoEs come up and puts up the counterattack and keeps it up for the full time? It's our counterattacker in this Grizzled Jarl spot. So there's definitely some options as far as ways to approach this, ways to build it, and it takes very little adjustments. Now, I have most of this on the website, and there's a lot of guidance as far as how to build this depending on what result you're looking for. So it becomes a good reference point to start with your team, and then you just tweak the speeds a little bit here and there to get the result that you actually want to get out of it. You know, one thing you can always do too is make this champion like 191, and look, it changes it again, but it's still a repeatable, replicable kind of build that can get you the kind of results that you want to get out of the fight. Well, that's the team. That's the result. I was very happy with that 3-key result because we're not bringing in a lot of meta champions. We're ignoring a lot of things that would be really great for us, like legendary champions, like poisoners, things that can really up and improve our damage over time. And even still, I don't know that I really built all these champions perfectly, right? You know, the more that I play with a team like this, I would be able to improve my damage incrementally, whether that means lowering the defense and increasing the attack on certain champions like Geomancer or Gold Gleam, or if it means doing the other with someone like a Rearguard Sergeant, where I'm like, I need more HP for her to survive a little bit longer. These are the little things that you can do to make adjustments to improve your team, and it only comes from watching it. So maybe that means changing when skills happen, or maybe it just means changing my gear slightly or swapping out one champion for another. I first tried this team actually using a Grush the Mangler, and I was like, we're not keeping decreased defense enough. Let's bring in Ragnar Goldgleam instead and try that. So there's always options and ways to go about doing these things. Hopefully this was helpful for you, as you guys can start to predict and see how can this work for my team and my champions and the skills they bring. If you have an Underpriest Brogni, great substitute for someone like Grizzled Jarl, because, hey, now you can block the affinity debuffs too. You can bring in somebody like a Bad El'Kazar, or even someone as basic as a Reliquary Tender, instead of Ragnar, and cleanse the stun. So Rearguard Sergeant can actually block the affinity debuffs, and you use that person to cleanse the stun for you instead. There's a lot of different ways to go about building these teams, and it's about understanding the mechanics, understanding how the skills work, and then finding the optimal result, the optimal setup for your team and your champion. So hopefully this is helpful. Reminder again, hit that subscribe, that like, that notification bell, so you know when my next video is out. That Soundstripe link is down below. And guys, this was fun. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned a little something, because that's kind of the goal here. So until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.